Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take your sources, articles, tech docs, all that stuff, and boil it down to, the key takeaway for you. And today, we're diving into a pedal that looks simple, maybe, but its history is pretty crucial, the Electro Harmonix Dr. Q envelope follower.
Good little wedge, yeah. A classic.
Totally. So if you're looking for the fastest track to understanding, how that auto-wah sound went from super expensive pro gear to something pretty much anyone could grab, then yeah, you're in the right place. Our mission here is to show how the Dr. Q just, change things up through sheer simplicity and being really affordable.
We're talking about that sound, right? The sound of the 70s groove, that wet, funky quack.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear that filter sweep on a classic psych rock solo, or maybe a really sharp funk bass line, that's an envelope filter doing its thing.
You think players like Jerry Garcia, maybe?
Oh, absolutely Garcia. Or the master, Bootsy Collins, for sure. The Dr. Q, popping up mid-decade, was basically EHX's move to say, hey, every guitarist can have this sound now.
Yeah.
You didn't need, hundreds of bucks lying around.
Okay, so let's set the scene then. Diving into the origins. We're talking around 1976, right?
Yeah, about 76.
What was going on with Electro Harmonix back then? And why focus on, what might seem like a niche filter pedal?
Well, it's interesting because 76 was this time of just huge, rapid growth and diversification for EHX. They were definitely moving way beyond just fuzz, like the Big Muff Pi or their early Echo units.
Right.
They were really pushing into modulation, filtering, time-based stuff. Think about pedals like the Electric Mistress Slanger launching around then, too. That was their complex take on modulation.
Okay.
So the Dr. Q fit right into that expansion plan, but with this laser focus on simplicity.
And the big problem it was solving was really cost, right? And just getting your hands on one.
Absolutely. Before the Dr. Q, if you wanted a good, reliable envelope filter, you were pretty much looking at boutique gear.
Like the Mutron the Third. That was a big one.
Mutron the Third was definitely the gold standard then. But it could cost, over $300?
Yeah.
In mid-70s money?
Wow, yeah. That's serious cash for a musician back then.
Huge investment, especially if you were just starting out or playing smaller gigs. The Dr. Q was specifically designed to just smash that price point. It was EHX saying, here's our compact, super affordable, entry-level version of that sound. They saw this popular effect stuck behind a paywall, basically, and decided to knock it down.
So aiming for maximum access, minimum cost, that must have driven some pretty specific design choices.
Right.
Which really defined the whole look and feel of the Dr. Q, didn't it?
Totally. To keep the costs way down and make manufacturing easy and consistent, they put it in that distinctive little wedge-shaped steel case.
Yeah, I know the one.
It's the same minimal box they use for other really core compact pedals, like the LPB1 booster.
The linear power boost.
Yeah. Or the Screaming Bird treble booster. It wasn't about packing in tons of features. It was about getting that core filter sound into something tough, reliable, and crucially cheap.
That little wedge box, it's kind of an icon of making effects accessible, isn't it?
It really is.
It wasn't flashy, but it put the sound out there for everyone. And that small size wasn't just about cost, it shaped how you used it too. Which brings us nicely to how the Dr. Q actually works.
Right, and this is where you get that aha moment with it. See, unlike a normal wah pedal where you're rocking your foot.
Right, with the treadle.
Exactly. The Dr. Q is an envelope-controlled filter. So picture the sound spectrum like a curtain, okay? The filter decides how high that curtain opens, and the thing pulling the curtain, it's your playing dynamics, just how hard you hit the strings. That intensity is the motor.
Okay, so it takes the foot out of the equation entirely. You're controlling it all with your hands. How does the circuit inside actually translate that pick attack into the quack?
It's actually brilliantly simple. When you hit the string hard, you create this voltage spike. That's the envelope.
Oh, okay.
And that envelope directly drives the filter circuit. Specifically, it opens and closes a bandpass filter inside the pedal. Now, a bandpass filter is key because it only lets a very specific narrow slice of frequencies through.
Right.
So you hit the string, the filter opens up, that frequency band sweeps high pretty quickly, and then as the note naturally fades out, the filter closes back down. That quick, sharp sweep is the quack.
That's a great explanation. So the response is purely about dynamics. How hard you play is how you control the effect.
Exactly.
You lose that fine-tuning you get with a foot pedal maybe, but you gain this immediate expressiveness.
Yeah, it's right there in your hands.
Was there any pushback at the time, like people saying it was too simple compared to the big Mutron with all its knobs?
Oh, sure. There were definitely limitations acknowledged. Critics sometimes noted that Dr. Q could sound maybe a bit thinner or less complex than the Mutron. The Mutron had controls for sensitivity, peak, different filter modes like low pass, high pass.
Right, a lot more tweakability.
Yeah. The Dr. Q basically traded that complexity for just being easy to get and easy to use. What maybe lost in features, it gained in just like instant musicality. Plug it in, get some funk.
Gotcha. But even with that simplicity, the layout still had enough going on to be useful for guitar and bass, right? What were the actual controls on that little box?
Super minimalist. You had the foot switch, obviously, and then the really important bit, that range toggle switch. That switch let you choose between a high range and a bass range. And that bass setting, that's kind of the secret weapon to its wide appeal.
Ah, the bass range. That's what ties it into that whole mid-70s funk and disco thing so strongly, isn't it?
Precisely. Flipping it to bass specifically lowered the filter's center frequency. So the sweep started lower and ended lower in the sound spectrum. It gave you this deeper, much fatter, funkier kind of feel.
Right.
Which made it awesome, not just for guitarists wanting those dark, chewy rhythm tones, but like you said, crucially for bass players, they could nail those specific, almost squelchy disco bass lines and deep grooves that were everywhere then.
So you end up with two pretty distinct sounds from one toggle. High mode gives you that brighter, sharper sweep. Good for tight, rhythmic guitar stuff.
Yeah, perfect for that funky scratch guitar kind of thing. Yeah. While the bass mode gives you the fatter grooves, that deep sweep. Sounds amazing on the low strings. You can use it for bass guitar, obviously, or even for heavier sort of psychedelic rhythm parts on a standard guitar.
And power-wise, these early ones were just simple batteries, right?
Yep. Strictly 9-volt battery. No fussing with power adapters back then, which, again, just reinforces that whole theme of simplicity and grab-and-go readiness.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Thinking about the legacy of this little pedal, it was cheap, it sold well enough for its time. But what's its real lasting importance in the giant EHX story?
Well, you're right. It was maybe never the absolute superstar seller like the Big Muff Pie.
Or the Electric Mistress Flander.
The Mistress is legendary. But the Dr. Q's significance is, I think, really profound in a different way. It was genuinely one of the very first affordable envelope filters that everyday players could actually buy.
Right.
Which meant that whole funk-inspired auto-wah sound wasn't just for the pros with endorsements or big budgets anymore. Suddenly, it was something the average garage band could actually get their hands on. It became, standard gear potential.
So it served two roles then. An entry point for players, but also a signal from EHX that they could do more than just dirt pedals.
Yeah, it definitely showed their range. They could tackle filters and modulation just as well as distortion. But maybe more importantly, the Dr. Q was like the foundational seed, the thing from which their later, much more complex and arguably more famous filter pedals eventually grew.
Ah, and that connects directly to what happened next, right? The successors and that really cool collaboration story down the line. The success of the simple Dr. Q proved there was a real market for envelope filters.
That's exactly it. Fast forward a bit into the 90s and 2000s. Mike Matthews at EHX, he took that market proof and did something pretty amazing. He actually partnered up directly with Mike Bagel.
The guy who designed the original Mutron III, the expensive one.
It's the very same guy. Talk about irony, right? The democratizer teaming up with the original high-end architect.
That's fantastic. A real full circle moment.
It really was. And that collaboration led straight to the Qtron series. The mini Qtron, the standard Qtron, the deluxe versions.
Right. Those became huge.
Yeah. And those pedals were physically bigger, way more sophisticated. They finally brought back all those complex features. The Mutron was known for adjustable sweep, more modes, all that stuff. They're really the direct spiritual successors to the little Dr. Q. Taking that initial affordable filter idea and scaling it way up into a pro-level, world-class effect.
That perfectly shows how sometimes that entry-level success can really pave the way for the high-end stuff later on.
Does EHX still nod to the original Dr. Q today, or is it all about the Qtron now? Oh, they absolutely still acknowledge it. That simple, really musical sweep of the original design, it still has a lot of fans. In fact, EHX recently put out the modern Nano Dr. Q reissue.
Ah, in the tiny nano enclosure.
Exactly. It keeps that original super simple circuit alive, but in that modern pedalboard-friendly format. It's kind of proof that sometimes the simplest design, just one switch, one toggle, is exactly what a player needs. You just want to add that bit of funk without any hassle.
That really sums it up perfectly. The Dr. Q, the little wedge box that basically brought California funk and those psychedelic textures to everybody. It did it through just radical affordability and design simplicity. proving you didn't need a fortune to get the cool sounds of the 70s. And here we are, decades later, and people still dig that straightforward musical sweep.
Mm-hmm. And maybe this leads us to the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Think about this sequence. The simple, affordable Dr. Q finds real success first, right? It basically proves there's mass interest in this kind of effect.
Okay.
Then, years later, EHX teams up with the original Mutron designer to make the much fancier, more complex Qtron line. So the question is, how much did that initial demand, generated by the basic, easy-to-get Dr. Q, actually inspire the decision to go back and create the high-end, complex Qtron?
Like did the simple version pay for, or at least justify, the complex one later?
Exactly. Did simplicity drive the demand that ultimately funded and justified the return to complexity? The connection in its own way might be the most resonant legacy of the Dr. Q.